Hello, hello, and happy Tuesday. We are back for another one of these impromptu episodes. Bit different this time because I am now coming to you guys from the beautiful city of Malaga in the Costa del Sol in Spain. It is now day three of this 5 week solo trip that I've decided to take through Europe. And I've been getting asked a very frequently asked question in my DMs with people that I've been connecting with here, even some friends and colleagues of mine back home. And I thought, what better way than to take that question, since it seems to be reoccurring from so many different people, and turn it into a lesson for everybody. Because the more I analyze the way that I would be answering this question to the, 17 or so different people that have now asked me this, the more I realize that there's actually a question beneath the question that is not being asked. And in proper Parmese fashion, I'm going to turn it into this philosophical rant of an answer. So I'll be revealing to you guys what the question is in just a moment, but just to kind of set this up as a preface, we're not going to be talking about personal branding or anything really business related today, but the topic that I'm going to be tackling is actually the undercurrent of what makes a personal brand successful. So, although I'm not going to be going into strategy, I'm not really going to be talking about business whatsoever. What we're going to be covering is what I would call the secret ingredient that actually makes or breaks your brand. And interestingly enough, it's kind of been wrapped up in this question that everyone's been asking me, which again, on the surface does not seem like it's a business related question, but it very much has to do with what actually leads to a personal brand success. And it's really important if you're especially a personal brand, not just any sort of business. So here I am in Malaga, Spain. This trip could not have come at a better time, by the way. If you guys caught my other videos, I kind of went through a little bit of a rough patch the weeks leading up to this trip. And I even mentioned in several of those videos that I felt like the timing could not have been worse just because of the amount of work that was on my shoulders in preparation for this trip and also with things I just, had told myself I want to wrap up before I go so that I can come here with a clear peace of mind. But as life often does, I was handed a lot of, inconveniences that I needed to deal with and that I didn't necessarily have the emotional, mental, even time bandwidth to handle. And let me just say, I somehow pulled it together and was able to get some stuff done, but I could not be happier to now be in a different environment. I just so deeply, desperately needed a change of scenery, a change of pace, just to get myself out of my day-to-day routine. I have been going hard, hard, hard since February, all the way until the end of May. And if you guys caught the tail end of my last video, I talk about how I set up my business to operate seasonally and cyclically so that I dedicate particular periods of time throughout the year to really kind of go hard and do this sprint of output. And then I allow myself to kind of rest, retreat, and recuperate for a 1 to 2 month period. So I'm now in my rest, recovery, and recuperation period. It doesn't mean that I do not work at all and I just kind of hide in my little cocoon or I'm out adventuring, exploring the world, and I'm completely disconnected. As a matter of fact, I have a couple of VIP days that I'm going to be doing on this trip. I've got my first one starting tomorrow. I have a couple of business connections that I would like to make while I'm here. So there is some work that's involved. I'm going to be writing a lot. I would like to be recording some more videos. But I'm in a much more, I should say, laid back, softer, and less output focused season of my life and business right now. And given the personal happenings of everything that took place leading up to this trip, I could not be happier to actually have the space and the mental kind of breath of fresh air to be able to focus focus and also process some of the happenings of these last couple of weeks and really allow myself to come back to myself. And again, for those of you who caught those previous videos, I talk a lot about how important it is to actually allow yourself the space to grieve, to feel, to process things as they come up, to be a human and not feel like you're a machine that just simply needs to keep going and going and going. So Anyhow, I am very happy to be here. Malaga is a beautiful, beautiful city. And for those of you guys who know, I'm on this 5 week trip, not just for vacation, but I'm kind of in the process of doing a little bit of research and trying to figure out where could I see myself settling for my next long-term home. As you guys know, or maybe don't, but I have been nomadic for the past 5 years. I haven't really had a solid home base. I've kind of been moving around. Um, Initially, this started off. I'm going to get into this actually a little bit in my video. I'm going to be covering this. This eventually, or it initially started off with me trying to move to the States because my partner was American. And, with that whole debacle, we did the whole immigration thing. I actually got there and then things didn't work out. And I've kind of been on the lookout for my next home ever since. So there was something about the south of Spain and Portugal as well, which I'll be going to in a couple of weeks, that kind of spoke to me. I felt like there was a bit of a nudge, a bit of a pull to this side of the world. So here we are. I'm going to be in the Costa del Sol for the next 2 weeks, kind of hopping from each beach town to each beach town, doing my research. And then I'll be heading off to Portugal for the remainder of the 3 weeks of my trip. So, anyhow, so that's a little bit about me. But why are we here today? What is this question that I'm being asked by everyone? And I guess everything that I just said kind of set up the premise for this. And I'm also going to say that this is primarily a question I've been getting from women. I haven't really had this come in from men. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today actually is going to be a little bit focused more on the feminine, on womanhood, and sharing from my own personal experiences of what it's like being a woman who is solo traveling. So, without further ado, the question that I've been asked by many, many women is how do you travel alone? How do you get over your fear of solo travel? How is it that you can bring yourself to just booking a trip and going there and not being afraid and just being allowed to be with yourself? How is it that, I could also do that as well? And I've had this question through the DMs these last couple of days as I've been sharing more about, my journey and kind of documenting behind the scenes of being in Malaga. I've had this question from even friends of mine back home or service providers and, people I was going to get a facial done or get my nails done. And they're just saying, oh my goodness, like I would love to do that one day. I would love to just be able to get up, book a flight, and just show up to a new country, but I am terrified. I have no clue how do you do that. Like, where does this courage come from? Or what can I do to also build up that courage and that muscle to be able to just book a trip and go? And for those of you who've known me for a long time, you know that this trip is not the first time I've done this. As a matter of fact, I've been solo traveling for the better part of the last 6 years. And I honestly have to say that some of the most incredible life experiences and like character shifting events that have happened in my life have happened because of solo traveling. It has happened because of the people that I've met, the issues I've encountered and have to overcome, the embracing of the unknown, the letting go of the control, the being in a completely new environment and not necessarily having the know-how of how to navigate that space. It is how I met my then fiance. We're not together anymore, but my fiance at the time, that was also, that happened, us meeting and that relationship kind of burgeoning happened as a result of me being on a solo trip in California. I've ended up moving countries now several times because of places that I went to and fallen in love with. I have met some of my current closest friends accidentally while I've been living abroad temporarily. My creativity and worldview and just my ability to form opinions and have ideas and the perspectives that I've developed on life, on myself, many of these things are directly related to the experiences and the lessons that I've gained from solo traveling. So, all of this to say, is that although it is a scary feat, and I'm going to be getting a little bit into the practicalities of what I believe needs to be, in place in order for solo travel to be something that you can just embrace as well. I think it's also important to say that, again, the person that I am today has been formed and has been forged through the discomfort of doing solo travel, of being able to, make peace with the unknown, of just being able to navigate the ups and downs and the problems of being in a foreign country where you perhaps don't speak the language or you're not familiar with the culture, or perhaps you have no one there to lean on for support and you're kind of leaning on yourself. And I know for a lot of women, especially women, because there's always this, this notion of safety that's involved as well. That can be terrifying. The idea of being on your own, the idea of not having anyone to rely on, the idea of being in a foreign land where you're not familiar with the currency, with the culture, with the language. There's a lot of factors that are completely valid. But the truth of the matter is, and the more I've been thinking about how to answer this question when people ask me, like, how do you develop the courage? How do you just pick up and go? I'm realizing more and more that the question is not how do I overcome the fear or how do I develop the courage, like as if it's this like switch that you flip on where you're afraid of travel and now you're not afraid of travel. The deeper core underlying layer here that I really want you guys to reflect on, if this question of how do I just solo travel is something that is relevant to you, is not how do you get over the fear. It is where is it in your life that you are resisting solitude? And where is it that you are lacking self-trust? Because at the end of the day, what really fuels this courage or this ability to just be able to pick up and go, this self-assuredness that you can navigate any sort of problem that is sent your way, it is not this bold, sense of courage on its own. It's the ability to self-rely. It's the ability to be okay and comfortable in your own solitude. It's the ability to trust yourself, to be able to navigate uncertainty, to be able to navigate difficult situations, unknown territory, foreign lands, and just be okay with the happenings of that. You see, most women think that they're afraid of the traveling piece alone. And many times when I ask people, what is it exactly about the travel that scares you, right? Is it like landing somewhere that you don't know where to go? Is it like booking accommodations? And a lot of times when I get people to sit with this question, or when I've asked this question back to friends, I'm noticing that when they're truly thinking about it, the mere act of traveling itself is not what is scary, right? What they're actually kind of afraid of, or what they're not used to, what feels unfamiliar to their nervous system, is how to be alone with their own thoughts, how to rely on themselves when there's nobody there to validate your decisions or to point you in the right direction. So you're completely self-sourced in that moment, not having someone to share every experience with. I'm going to share that a little bit more. Yeah, I'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. But not having someone there to kind of just like be in that present moment with you, like truly just being on your own. Not having an audience, so someone or a group, or feeling like you're kind of in this performative state all the time, and not knowing who you are when no one's watching. This one is huge. This one is huge, huge, huge. You see, because solo travel or just travel, period, that itself is not the thing that you need to overcome or the thing that you need to embrace. You need to start seeing travel, or especially solo travel, as the mirror. What is it reflecting back to you about the relationship that you have with yourself at the core? Okay. Because when you're in a new city by yourself, when there's nobody there where you can kind of pretend or wear a mask, when there's nobody there to give you guidance, you have no choice but to face yourself, to sit with yourself. And the ugly truth of the matter is that if you have never done that, if you don't have a relationship to yourself, if you cannot enjoy your own company, if you do not know who you are, if nobody else is watching, that is the thing that will make solo travel seem so terrifying. It's not just landing in a new country. It's not just booking your accommodations. It's not just going to dinner alone that, creates a bit of fear. It is the fear of having to sit with yourself. It is the fear of having to be present with yourself when there's nobody there to distract you. There's nobody there to share the moment with when there's nobody there to give you guidance or to help you if you're ever feeling stuck. It is truly, truly becoming self-reliable. And for a lot of women, that is not a trait that they've ever developed. So I'm going to get into a little bit, and I've taken a couple of notes just as they've come on. I went on a walk today, and this was something I was thinking of recording last night. And I took a couple of notes because I think that the question, like I said, of how do you get over your fear of solo travel is actually revealing many deeper layers of what I believe women today need to develop to become lethal creatures. And this isn't just for the sake of how do you actually get yourself out of the country and go travel. What I'm going to share with you guys today is the undercurrent to how do you succeed as a woman in today's day and age as a fully self-sourced sovereign being so that you're not consistently outsourcing your sense of validation to the external world. You're not allowing other people's behaviors or judgments or decisions or opinions shake you. You're not allowing yourself to kind of waver in your self-belief because of the external circumstances. And whether you're a woman in business, I would say this is going to be especially important to you if you're a woman in business, or a woman who is in a relationship or seeking a relationship, a woman who is, climbing up the social ladder or the corporate ladder, or a woman who is just simply existing in today's society. How do you develop this backbone? How do you develop this ability to remain calm in difficult situations? How do you develop this unshakable sense of self-worth and self-reliance without veering into hyper independence and this kind of masculine sense of having your guard up or feeling like you don't need anybody anytime? Right? What we're going to be talking about today is that undercurrent that undermines how do you develop that magnetic trait of holding your own? How do you develop that magnetism of self-assuredness, that magnetism of a woman who does not need anything outside of herself to feel whole? It doesn't mean that she's hyper independent or, is closed off from the world or is shielded and is kind of cold-hearted. That's not what I'm getting at here. It's how do you become the woman who is just comfortable in her own skin? Because that is the thing that makes you magnetic to the world. That is the thing that attracts opportunities to you. That is the thing that actually develops that courage and that knowing that you can navigate anything, regardless of what life throws at you, regardless of which country you're in, regardless of who you are with. Okay? So, jokingly, to a couple of these people who have asked me, how do you develop this courage to just get up and go? I've always said that step one, and again, this is obviously a joke. Step one to successfully being a solo traveler is being a little bit of a loser growing up. So, all jokes aside, I grew up being a little bit ostracized from social groups, from school, kind of being the outcast, being, not the popular girl, the one that was kind of weird, the one that everyone kind of looked to and never like understood. I've shared a little bit about this story, and maybe I'll share another video about just this upbringing and how it's affected me in my adult life, the good and the bad. But I was taught at a very young age to be very comfortable with myself. And for many years, I struggled with that. I struggled to fit in. I struggled to get people to like me. I always looked different than my peers. I thought different than my peers. I spoke different than my peers. I was always a little bit of a, pardon my French, a mind fuck to people because I exhibited a particular look and vibe, but my intelligence and demeanor and behaviors and values kind of communicated something else. And so I was a little bit of a mind fuck to people because I kind of like looked like this, shallow bimbo, for the lack of better terms. But I was a straight A student. I had a lot of depth to me. I had very different opinions, and I grew up gifted, so I had, a lot of things about me that were kind of like different and more advanced. And somehow the combination of looking the way I did and speaking the way I did and having the demeanor and the brains that I didn't really work out for me in my favor. If anything, it kind of created this outcast to the rest of the world. I didn't really fit in with the athletic girls. I didn't fit in with the nerds. I didn't fit in with the popular girls. I was just kind of always by myself. And for a long time, this took a really, really big hit on my self-esteem. For the majority of my teens and even into my early 20s, I really struggled with fitting in and kind of finding my place in the world. And looking back now, that experience actually helped shape a lot of this comfort that I have developed in my own solitude. And in the beginning, it was not self-imposed. It was almost like a coping mechanism. I couldn't fit in anywhere, so I was kind of ostracized. I was laughed at. I was severely bullied when I was in school, and I kind of had to just be by myself. That I didn't want to. I wanted to be a cool girl. I wanted to fit in and have friends. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So I had to get used to eating my lunch alone or not being invited to things or being the last one that's picked. And again, looking back now, that really kind of started to plant the seeds of this sense of confidence that I have now. You know how they say that the people who've had a glow up in their like 20s, 30s, or later years are usually the ones that were like the weird ones or they were picked on or whatever when they were when they were kids? That was definitely me. So I had to develop a little bit of a backbone to simply survive high school, even university. And it wasn't until I started to embrace my natural gifts, until I got into business, until I started to communicate and self-express, that I started to attract the people that were truly my tribe. The people who no longer made me feel like an outcast, the people who really kind of saw me for me. And again, this probably didn't happen until my early, I would say early to mid 20s. So step number one is to solo travel is if you are someone who has always kind of been outcasted, if you are someone who didn't grow up as the popular girl or boy, if you were someone who kind of learned at a young age to be a little bit more independent. Again, there's a lot of trauma that also comes with this, but a lot of times you already have planted the seeds on how to survive on your own, how to be reliant on yourself. Sometimes to a detriment with being overly reliant. Well, we'll get to that in a second as well. But being able to embrace the parts of you that were different, the parts of you that were independent, the parts of you that had to develop this sense of I'm on my own and I got it. Like I'm okay. I've had evidence of times that I've been outcasted or I've been weirded out or I've been picked on, and I survived that. So if I can survive that, I'm okay with myself. I can handle myself in new territory. I can handle myself in uncertain situations. So that's kind of step number one. Again, I'm kind of joking, but I'm also not. Step number two is adopting or getting into the identity of someone who does novel and uncomfortable things. And I didn't realize until just maybe these last couple of years how much that has been ingrained in just simply who I am as a person. Now, I've been an entrepreneur or a freelancer since I was 19 years old, and everyone knows that once you get into business, it truly forces you to face a lot of things. It forces you to own a lot of your shit. It forces you to own your voice, to set boundaries, to really know your self-worth. Like anyone knows, if you start creating content or if you start taking on clients, if you start charging money for services, like a lot of your past stuff comes up and forces you to almost face it. And it forces you to do novel things. I started speaking on stages. I started going to networking events, even if I had social anxiety. I started, creating content at a very young age. I started to gain more visibility. And a lot of those things were novel and uncomfortable at first. But I have a lot of evidence for novelty and discomfort to leading to incredible things. So for those of you who are also thinking about solo travel as this like novel, scary thing, I want you guys to start microdosing little bits and pieces of how you can start to microdose uncomfortable situations and novelty to build up that evidence for both your mind and your nervous system that you did the thing and you didn't die. If anything, you probably have discovered this innate sense of resilience that you didn't even know was there. So I think, the combination of kind of growing up as that outcast and then starting a business while I was in university kind of gave me this oomph, this boost to understanding the ins and outs of solitude, discomfort, doing things that seem really scary, but then doing them anyway, feeling the fear, doing it anyway, getting to the other side and really feeling like, oh, like I feel like a stronger, more resilient version of myself. Even though I was maybe heaving in the bathroom before I took that action, I feel like a more comfortable, um, confident version of myself now that I've done the thing. And then step three is to make peace with uncertainty and being able to let go of control. And again, I'm going to get into some of the nuances of this in just a sec, but I think for a lot of us, the scary thing about being in a situation where we don't necessarily have control on all of the factors. We don't necessarily feel like if something goes wrong, we know exactly how to navigate that. A lot of this comes back to our fear of letting go and going with the flow and trusting that whatever comes our way, even if we don't have a plan, even if we feel unprepared, that we are self-resourced enough to be able to navigate it at that time. A lot of people, and I would say especially my clients, when we first start getting into business, a lot of the fears and the anxieties that we have, and a lot of the over planning, the over plotting, the jumping from mentor to mentor, buying every single shiny object program, is this consistent desire to be on the leading edge, to be able to control and maneuver to avoid failure. Because to us, the uncertainty, the novelty, the not having control or not having a plan is terrifying. And so we try to take back that control to minimize some of that fear, minimize some of that discomfort by knowing exactly what to do in every situation, or having someone there to guide us or to mentor us, or having a plan and feeling prepared. And again, I'm not saying we want to be dumb and go into things completely blind. We do want to do our research. We do want to be smart with our resources. But a lot of the times, this over preparation, this over sense of helicoptering is coming from this fear of the uncertain stuff being bad. And if there's one thing that travel has taught me is that sometimes the uncertainty, even if it comes with discomfort and fear, is actually the good part. A lot of the confidence that I've developed in myself, both in travel and in business as well, has come from feeling the uncertainty and instead of retreating back into familiarity and comfort, stepping further into it, leaning into it, because there have been things that have been, coming my way, or things that I've had to face that I could have never prepared for. And it wasn't until I was in that situation and I recognized that I'm underprepared for it, that I was able to muster up some courage and resourcefulness and resilience, and muster up this part of my identity that was untapped, that I didn't even know existed. And those are some of those experiences that have led to this incredible sense of confidence and self-assuredness that I have now. But it wasn't because I had a plan. It wasn't because I knew exactly what was going to happen and I was in control. As a matter of fact, it was the opposite. It was when shit hit the fan, or when things were completely out of control, or when there were so many factors that were at play that I was completely in the dark. There was a lot of uncertainty. But instead of retreating back into comfort, I stepped into it more. I leaned into it more. And from that leaning forward, I was able to create changes. I was able to make decisions on the spot. I was able to solve problems that I didn't know I had the capacity to solve before. So, do you guys see how the uncertainty, the fog, the fear of the unknown, the desire to have control on everything, the fear of the novelty, or feeling like if something feels uncomfortable, it means we're not ready for it. A lot of these things are going to feel wrong or misaligned at first. We're going to feel underprepared for doing something like getting on a plane and going somewhere by ourselves. We're for the most, or I should say, the majority of the things in my life and that I've observed with friends, clients, peers, clients. I've said clients twice now. People around me, including myself, the things that have led to the most amount of growth have been the things that people did not have control over, that they did not feel prepared for. But the moment came, the opportunity came, and they found that part of themselves that stepped up to the plate. I talked about this in my previous couple of videos in different contexts. One was, navigating life quakes and uncertainty and periods of time where you're navigating grief or something difficult that was just put into your lap. I've also talked about it in business where you're never going to feel fully prepared. You're never going to feel like you have all the pieces together. You kind of need to jump and build the airplane down, or build the airplane on the way down. A lot of people use that term to describe entrepreneurship. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to making big life decisions like this as well. You can't always be fully prepared. You need to, have the ability to take that leap and have the faith that you have capacity, that you have bandwidth, that you have untapped potential within you to build that airplane and be able to take off and not crash. And guess what? Sometimes you might crash. But it's okay. It's okay. Those are the moments that you learn. Even if you were to hit rock bottom with certain life decisions, there's always an upward spiral after that. And again, I don't say this to like spiritually bypass negative things or to say that, we can't completely fuck up our life in some ways. You absolutely can. But in a lot of circumstances, it is the unknown and it's observing yourself maneuver and navigate that unknown that builds that confidence, that builds that conviction, that builds that resilience that you didn't know that you were capable of before. So those are a couple of just initial thoughts that I wanted to share about the solo travel. Now, I want to get into what I believe is I would call the rarest trait that I think that a woman can develop. And the reason why I think this is relevant is because without this trait, without this secret ingredient, I don't think solo travel would be possible. I don't think running and operating and sustaining a successful business would be possible. I don't think being a healthy partner in a relationship would be possible. So the secret underlying ingredient or this rare trait that I want to talk about, um, it is again that underpinning to many, many of life's milestones and many of the ways that we experience moving through life. And I think many women go the majority of their lives never truly, truly embodying this trait and consistently chasing it in different ways. So, what is this trait? And I wrote down this quote. This is what's kind of fueling this entire section of this video. The quote I wrote down is one of the rarest traits in a woman today is the ability to genuinely enjoy her own company. Now, obviously, I know this isn't just reserved for women, but in particular, I've been seeing this in women. I've been seeing the lack of it, I should say, in women. It is it is not to just simply tolerate yourself or to distract yourself. It is to actually enjoy and fully embody the present moment when you are by yourself. Because we are raised in a culture, and I say we, like I would say globally, women, just societally, the conditioning of how we are taught from even when we're little girls, we're raised in this pressure cooker of consistently looking outside of ourselves, consistently trying to source guidance, validation, approval, belonging, worthiness, certainty, identity, beauty. All of these things we have been conditioned to source from the external world, from men, from our status, from our looks, from social media. So when a woman truly becomes comfortable being alone, something radical within her awakens. Okay? She stops outsourcing her sense of self to what other people think of her, to how people view her, to what people say or approve of her or disapprove of. And she becomes her own source of validation. She becomes her own source of self-worth. And what does this have to do with travel? Everything. Because when you are traveling by yourself, you are going to be having dinners alone. You are going to be going to new experiences, new venues alone. You are going to be spending a lot of time in your head and in your body with yourself. And yes, even when you are meeting people, even when you are, not necessarily alone by yourself all the time, you are still alone in a new environment. And this, just being able to do that, requires the ability to not constantly be searching and surveillancing for other people's approval. To be able to go to an event by yourself and to not have the fear of what are people going to think? Is it weird that I'm here alone? If I go to a restaurant and ask for a table for one, are the people around me going to be watching me? Are they going to be wondering why I'm there by myself? Are they going to be wondering if I got stood up? Are they going to be thinking that this girl has no friends? Right? Can we navigate those fears that come up? Because again, like I said, much of the time, the fear of the travel is not fear of the travel itself. It's the fear of sitting with ourselves. It's the fear of quieting that voice that we have inside that is telling us this is weird, this is uncomfortable. What are people thinking? Do they think I'm a loser? Do they think I'm this? Do they think I'm that? Do you see how much externalization is happening with our self-worth? How much we are looking to other people to approve of us? And again, like I said, this is a rare trait because I see it being the underpinning for how to succeed in business as well. If you are a personal brand, you want to be creating from this place of conviction, from this place of knowing your worth, knowing your value, not this place of being worried about what people are going to think. How is this going to be viewed? Are you going to be seen as professional enough or not? Are people not going to like what you have to say? Are you going to get backlash on your opinions? Are you going to risk looking cringe for a certain period of time? So this trait of enjoying your own company, enjoying yourself, liking yourself is an important factor to growing your business as well. In relationships, right? Whether you're dating or you're in a serious relationship, something short term, long term, you liking yourself and self-advocating and not self-abandoning is again going to be the undercurrent of what creates a healthy relationship dynamic. If you are consistently in a state of looking for your partner's approval, you will be like an empty, like a bottomless well of consistently sourcing validation, sourcing your worthiness from your partner. Compliments, attention. None of it is going to be enough. None of it is ever going to fill that void if that void is not first being filled by you. You will not be a healthy partner if you cannot self-advocate, if you cannot set boundaries, if you cannot communicate your needs and actually, stand by them. If you do not know what your standards are and what you're deserving of in a relationship and actually hold to that, to be able to say no, to be able to communicate what it is that you desire with confidence, with compassion for sure, but with confidence to not feel like you're too much for taking up space. Do you guys see how this trait of self-assuredness and enjoying your own company and believing that you are worth self-advocating for? It's not just travel, right? It's not just travel. It is literally the secret ingredient to succeeding in any meaningful domain in life. The woman who takes care of herself, who invests in her health, who invests in her skills, who invests in her ability to learn new things. This is a woman who believes that she is worthy of those things. She has the capacity to learn new things and to do great things in the world. And she's not afraid of looking like a beginner. She's not afraid of looking dumb. She's not afraid of taking up space. She does not self-abandon her values, her morals, her ethics, her beliefs, her sense of self to please others. She doesn't curate a persona that she believes is going to be more respected or more liked or more, it's going to gain her status or popularity amongst people. She does not walk into a room and wonder how people are going to view her. How should she carry herself? What should she dress like? How should she do her hair? How should she do her makeup? How should she talk? What are the mannerisms that she needs to embody? She does not think about those things. She simply walks in, owning who she is. And as cliche as it is, she is kind of scanning around to see if she likes that environment. Does she like the people in that room? Are they up to her standards? Is this environment even worth her time and energy right now? Does she have the bandwidth for this? Or are there things that are, that merit her energy more? Is this aligned with who she is? Not the other way around. It's not, do they like me? Am I fitting in? It's, do I like this? Is this up to my standards? So when it comes to travel, or even if I'm in my own hometown, it doesn't necessarily have to be travel. I have forged this muscle. I have forged this muscle of enjoying my own company. And this is probably some of the deepest inner work that you can do as a woman, as a business owner, as someone who wants to show up as a healthy partner, as a personal brand who wants more visibility and who wants to make more impact. as a personal brand who has gifts and services and things that you know are needed in the world, but it just requires you to be okay being seen in your vulnerability, in your authority, in your essence, without looking for approval, without trying to belong, without sourcing your sense of worthiness on who's applauding for you and who's encouraging you, right? How many of us lose steam? I'm speaking us as in business owners. How many of us get discouraged when we post a reel and the reach is abysmal? Or when we've been going hard promoting something and it's not getting the traction that we desired? How many times do we sit back and we think, "Ugh, I don't know if this is for me, or that was kind of cringe?" Rather than just seeing everything as a stepping stone, everything as a developmental brick that you're putting towards the right direction. How many times do we, maybe get laughed at, or we hear someone who has spread a rumor about us, or someone that doesn't like us, or we get a negative comment and we kind of retreat back into ourselves. We start to self-question ourselves, right? That's what happens when we have not taken the time to cultivate that relationship with ourself. We are still externalizing our sense of self-worth. We are still scanning for approval. We are still watching to see who likes this, who accepts us, what version of ourselves do we need to be to appease the people, without ever once stopping to ask ourselves, why? Why are we so obsessed with appeasing the people? Who are these people? Why do I put so much weight and so much gravity on what they say about me, how they think about me? When I share with people that I get dressed up, I look my best, and I just go to a fancy restaurant by myself, and oftentimes I'm surrounded by couples, I'm surrounded by groups of girls, and I've had friends of mine say, like, I would be terrified to do that. Why? And I ask them why. Well, it kind of looks weird. Everyone's there with friends. There's guys and girls on dates, and I'm just there sitting there by myself, looking like a psychopath. And why are you so worried about what these strangers are thinking of you? Are you enjoying your presence? Are you enjoying the food? Are you enjoying being in that atmosphere? Are you enjoying people watching? Maybe you don't. But for many of you, that is a goal of yours. That's why I'm creating this video. That was a question that was asked. How do I get used to doing things on my own? Specifically, how do I develop the courage and overcome the fear of just going to a new country? It requires you to have cultivated a very deep, strong bond with yourself. And what I shared earlier about me growing up as an outcast and me starting a business at an early age, these were all stepping stones. These were all things that naturally kind of guided me more and more towards this type of lifestyle or developing this backbone. For some of you, you might relate, some others you might not relate. That was maybe not your past. But yet you still want to cultivate that ability to be able to do the hard thing, to be able to go to a restaurant by yourself, to not care so much about what other people are thinking of you, how they are judging you, how they are critiquing you. And it starts with asking yourself the deeper question, what is the relationship that you have with yourself? And if the answer that you're thinking about right now is, maybe the relationship I have with myself isn't as strong or as intentionally built as I thought, ask yourself why. There's no shame in this. Why? What was it about your upbringing? What was it about how you've been conditioned? What was it about the way that you have developed these beliefs and these narratives about what it means to be alone, about what other people's judgment means about you, right? Where were you judged, or where were you consistently told that other people's approval means more than what you feel inside? What are ways, I want you guys to maybe self-audit, right? I always tell you guys, self-inventory, always self-inventory. What are ways that you might be trying to fill the void of loneliness or solitude, or what are ways that you are still trying to source your sense of approval, belonging, certainty, identity from other people? Who are you if we were to remove your titles and how you are viewed by the outside world? If we remove your, not your name as in like your actual name, but like what your title is as to like the outside world, what is your, what does your career look like? What is your business? What is the role that you occupy socially? If we were to take off your followers, your income, the place that you were born, the people that you associate with. Who are you at that core? What are your beliefs? What are your narratives? What are your preferences? What are your desires? What are your goals? What are your quirks? And again, for some of you, answering that question might be difficult, but it serves as a way for you to look at the gaps of where your identity has been forged through the lens of others and not through your own. And what are the ways that we can start outsourcing or stop outsourcing our sense of worth to our environment, to the people around us, to our title, to how many followers we have, to how much money that we make? How much of our identity has been based on extraneous factors that don't have to do with what we believe about ourselves within? What are ways that we are trying to fill the void? I I said this kind of in sarcastically to someone before, and they said, I don't believe that a woman like you, whatever that means, can just go to these places and travel alone. Like you probably are meeting men or getting hit on constantly, or having a guy take you out for dinner every night. And I'm like, quite the opposite, actually. I don't come on vacation, or I don't travel for long periods of time by myself. And then as soon as I get here, I get on a dating app. I've never had a dating app, by the way. I've never been on dating apps. I recorded a whole other thing about how I disagree with dating apps. Um, I don't come here to try to fill in the void of being like, well, I'm here, so let me find someone to distract me or to spend the time with. I don't come here and, take myself out to dinner and scroll Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube because I can't stand, just taking in the present moment. I actually allow myself to people watch, allow myself to kind of be in the moment, allow myself to be with my thoughts. And gosh, as a creative, as someone who is birthing things into the world, as someone who is a writer, a painter, whatever, however way that you would like to think of yourself as a creative, how important is it for you to spend time with your thoughts, for you to take in new experiences and metabolize them, and then turn them into something that you want to put out into the world? But then again, that requires you to silence those thoughts. It requires you to be present with the moment. It requires you to take in novel experiences that maybe are uncomfortable, but that bring you closer to yourself, that help you develop your worldview, that shape your perspectives. And again, this all always comes back to the relationship that you have with yourself. The woman that is comfortable being by herself, that is a radical trait for you to develop, and it is rare. Because a woman who is self-assured in that way, she's not afraid of walking away from friendships, from partnerships, romantic or non-romantic, that are not serving her. She is not pouring all of this energy of herself into other people, into situations that are draining her without knowing how to hold her own. She does not self-abandon for the approval of other people. She does not doubt her abilities or gifts or her magic when it comes to self-promotion, when it comes to self-advocacy. She is not afraid of taking up space. She can unapologetically claim what her role is, what she desires, what she wants without feeling like it's too much, without feeling like she needs to make sure everybody else is appeased before herself. And this does not mean that you need to be this cold, harsh, selfish person that just thinks about yourself and nobody else. Right, in my last video, I talk a little bit about this dichotomy, this paradox of being a woman who is both self-assured and a woman who is, has this bold backbone, but also can be very kind and compassionate and generous. And how for the longest time I thought you could either be this or this. There's a way to be both, right? But it's when your worthiness is sourced from the inside. You are no longer looking to your boyfriend, your husband, your friends, your followers, the audience that you've somehow curated for yourself for that approval. You own your views, your beliefs. You own yourself, your quirks. You're not afraid of being seen for the real you, right? You're not wearing this mask that you think is going to get you the followers, is going to bring you the status or whatnot. You're comfortable in your own skin. You have the confidence and the courage to be able to go to foreign networking events or go to, countries and eat dinner by yourself or sit at a cafe alone without being on your phone, but just allowing yourself to take in the environment. independent of thinking about how am I being perceived right now. Right? A magnetic woman is not consistently scanning to see how is she being perceived. She is the one doing the perceiving. She is not the one concerned about how she is being perceived. Okay, that's all I had to say about that. This secondary piece that I'm going to get into is this sovereignty piece. And again, this just simply piggybacks off of everything I said. It's not really a new point, it's more just going deeper into the layers of it. When you become that level of self-assured, when you have cultivated that sense of self and that connection with that person that you are within, without consistently worried about how other people are seeing you, you develop this sense of sovereignty. And that sovereignty is that magic ingredient that suddenly starts making things happen for you. Because to be self-assured and sovereign, meaning that you like yourself, you're independent of other people's judgments, behaviors, thoughts, beliefs about you. You have this sense of, I have my own back, I can self-advocate. Instead of consistently looking outside of yourself, that is how you reclaim your power as a woman. And this magnetism that I've been talking about, or that you hear, if you're into manifestation, if you're into what it is about certain women or certain businesses, certain people that keep having things and opportunities and situations happen for them rather than constantly against them, it is when you are in that energy, in that frequency of sovereignty. It is when you are detached from needing things to play out in your way, from needing people to view you in a certain way. And again, that detachment isn't this kind of like cold-hearted, like, I don't care what happens type of vibe. It's the detachment from that control that I was talking about earlier. It's the detachment from worrying that somebody else's words or thoughts or beliefs about you is going to shake up your character. Because sovereignty isn't about control and having it all together all the time. It's self-possession. And I talked about this very deeply in my previous videos when I was talking about how I was navigating in real time a very difficult life situation and allowing myself to be seen in that vulnerability and being very open and transparent about how I'm navigating the difficulty, how I'm navigating kind of being a mess while still containing and self-possessing those emotions, while still redirecting that pain, redirecting that negative energy into a positive outlet. Even what I'm doing right now is an example of that. When you have that level of self-possession, it's, and again, that self-possession, it's about knowing who you are, regardless of who stays, who leaves, who approves, who disagrees, who projects their own stuff onto you. You don't feel the need to over-explain. You don't feel the need to dim yourself to fit into the boxes around you, right? I see that a lot with clients, with friends, feeling like you need to, soften up your edges to fit into what is appropriate, to fit into the thing that other people are expecting of you. Because the way that you are in its most authentic form does not fit the script. And so we need to dim and we need to shift, we need to change who you are to fit it more into what is palatable, what is acceptable. Self-possession and sovereignty is when you break out of that box, when you own all of the edges, when you own being cringe, when you own the quirks, when you're not afraid of truly expressing what is on your mind and your heart without the fear of how is this going to elicit a response. The fear is not, or I should say that the fuel behind your expression is not to get a response. It is to fully own your truth and be unapologetic about owning it. This sovereignty piece only comes, this energy of sovereignty that makes you so magnetic to men, to business, to money, to people following you, to people, really, really adoring your work and yourself and just being drawn to your energy. It's the woman who does not feel like she needs to control perception. It's the woman who does not feel like she needs to walk on eggshells to get other people's approval. It's the woman who is self-possessed, the woman who is self-assured. And it's a fine line to navigate. I want to acknowledge this because I think this is really important. It's a really fine balance to navigate not veering into hyper independence and this kind of like cold-heartedness and feeling like you kind of need to be the villain. I talk a little bit about your villain era in my last video, which again, I still stand by it. I myself, I think with the happenings of these last several years and things that have happened with business breakups and mistakes that I've made, a relationship ending, an engagement ending, you know, having to move countries several times. Like I've navigated a lot of life storms. And I've realized in many ways I was not operating from this sovereign frequency. I was still allowing external forces to make me waver. And this villain era that I've now stepped into is not so much being a villain in its raw sense. It's taking back that power. It's reclaiming that space. It's being unapologetic about who I am and how I want to show up in the world without needing to over-explain myself, without being worried of how other people are going to perceive me or what they're going to think. And it is, for the first time in my life at age 30, truly being in love with who I am at my core. There's always room for improvements. There's shadows that I've been integrating. There's things that have been challenging. There's been things that have been working themselves out in the background. But it is a result of me taking back that power and not falling into this hyper independence of, okay, great, I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone's approval. I think I'm incredible. I can't take feedback. I'm not going to be listening to anyone's, critique of me. I'm untouchable. I'm a goddess. I'm God's gift to earth. I don't believe that about myself. And I think it's a little bit narcissistic for any woman who does. I think you can be incredibly confident, incredibly competent, convicted, sovereign, and still don't think that, you are untouchable. There's this humility in the confidence that makes you so attractive. That sovereignty is not thinking that you will never be wrong or that everybody else is the problem and not you. It is being able to take radical self-responsibility, is being able to look at your shadows and recognize where there's still some inner work that needs to be done. It is recognizing when you are acting in a mature or immature way. It is recognizing how you are still kind of seeking approval and validation from other people, be it your friends, your colleagues, your romantic partner, or a romantic interest of yours, right? Where do you lose yourself when it comes to perception management, when it comes to sourcing your sense of identity from others? How do you do that without falling into this hyper independence of, okay, well then great, I don't need anyone. I don't need a man. I don't need approval from anyone. I'm just going to do me. We are social creatures at the end of the day. So on one side of the spectrum is the hyper independence, and again, it's usually as an overcorrection of being in a perpetual state of self-abandonment and kind of like being unhealthily disconnected from your desire to connect with other people and have this feminine urge, let's say, to have a tribe and have people that support you, and actually being comfortable with yourself at your core. You can absolutely be comfortable with yourself. You can absolutely have a sense of, I have my back and I trust myself and I like myself. I will self-advocate for myself, but I can still extend compassion. I can still, be um I don't know what the word is, compromisable is what's coming to mind, but like be someone who is willing to compromise, who is willing to accommodate, but not over accommodate, because the fuel behind it is not coming from this place of, I need to do this to get approval. I need to do this so that they like me. I need to do this so that people can see me in a certain way. But the compromise and the flexibility and the adaptability is coming from a place of abundance. It's coming from a place of putting your oxygen mask on first and then being able to extend it to others. So do you guys see how the key ingredient that I keep coming back here to? Again, this goes so much deeper than just solo travel, right? Do you see how this one question that many of you asked has now sparked an entire philosophical inner work, shadow work lesson? that I've been preaching about for about an hour now, it's not about the travel. It's not about the getting to a new destination and being alone. It is about who are you at your core when no one's watching? How how deeply do you know yourself? How deeply do you like yourself? What has actually led to you developing those character traits? What has led to you creating that sense of sovereignty within? And what are ways that you might be subtly still self-abandoning for the approval of others, for the acceptance of others, for belonging? Okay. This next section, I've actually written this down because I wanted to remember it. I came up with it last night while I was in bed. As my best ideas usually do, it's either as I'm dozing off to sleep or in the shower or on a walk. I call it the 9S framework for becoming a lethal woman. So there's 9 S's to kind of recap everything that we've talked about. That I think if there was something that you were going to take notes from, this would be it. So number one is self-sourced, meaning your confidence, your sense of self, your sense of who I am, what is my identity, what do I believe about myself, is coming from within and not from the external world. Again, I think it's nearly impossible to be someone who says, I don't care at all what other people think about me. At the end of the day, we are social creatures. At the end of the day, we do fit into society. We do have this innate need for belonging and tribalism. We absolutely all care about what other people think, right? I still care about what other people think. What I don't care about, though, is whether they approve of me or not, because that is coming from within, right? If someone watches these videos and thinks I'm absolutely cringe, that's fine. That kind of sucks, but I'm not for you then. I'm not going to stop producing these videos because I get some negative comments or because someone tells me that they think this is cringe. If my sense of worth was sourced from the external world, I might allow that to have a really big impact on me, but I don't because I like who I am when I'm delivering this. Doesn't matter what other people think. So I'm not doing it for applause. That's the thing I want you guys to take away from it. Being self-sourced means that your sense of self, who you are, how you carry yourself, everything from how you dress, how you speak, what you speak about, the people you surround yourself with, your sense of confidence, it is coming from this inner connection to your core, to your identity. It is not coming from the expectations. It is not coming from how other people are going to view you, what they expect of you. It's not coming from that. So the S number one, or yeah, S number one was self-sourced. S number two is sovereign. So you own your choices and your life. You are someone who makes decisions based on your own desires, your goals. You do not consistently outsource your power to other people to make decisions for you. You trust yourself to be able to navigate things. You trust yourself to be able to make big decisions. You trust yourself to be able to navigate even when you've made a mistake or even when something is uncertain because you have that frequency, you've embodied that frequency of sovereignty. You do not allow other people's expectations and judgments to throw you off course. You do not change your mind because someone tells you they don't like the way you dress or the way that you speak. You do not consistently fall into the pattern of looking at what other people are doing to figure out who you need to be. And again, this is just one of those things that I see in business a lot. Like, oh, so and so is doing this trend in their content. Maybe I should do that too. So and so told me this is the framework, this is the blueprint that I need to be following. So I'm going to go follow that blueprint. I have this new idea. I'm too scared to bring it into the world myself. I'm going to go hire someone so that they can tell me exactly what to do, rather than just experimenting with it and allowing yourself to engage with it, allowing the answers to come to you. In so many ways, we as women have forfeited our sovereignty because we have been conditioned to consistently look outside of ourselves for answers. Even in this new age kind of way of like, I want a man who's a leader, I want a man who allows me to shut my brain off. And again, I would love to have a man that can be the brain sometimes and that I can fully rely on and that I can have faith that he's able to lead and make good decisions and he knows what's best for me, for us, Absolutely. But I'm not necessarily falling for this rhetoric of women just being la la la, in a relationship, being the little girl and never having to think, and having a guy swoop in and be the savior and to tell her exactly how she should be running her life and to, retire her so she never has to work again and she never has to make another decision again or she never basically has to make any sort of adult commitment again because she has a man in her life that's doing all that for her. I'm not really falling for that. I think we've kind of taken that a little bit too far. Your sovereignty as a woman, owning your choices, taking radical responsibility for your role in how things work out in your life. Even in failed relationships, in businesses flopping, in ideas not going in the direction that you want them to, in any sort of major challenge or obstacle or failure that you've hit, do you have the ability to self-reflect on what has been my role in this? It's not to self-shame or to victimize yourself, but it's to take an honest look at where were there shadows of your own in play? What were ways that you could navigate this situation better next time? What were the lessons that you took from this? Are your choices your own? Or are you consistently looking outside of yourself for someone to tell you what to do, tell you what to decide, tell you what to eat, tell you how to operate your business? Those are typically signs that you have not cultivated this sovereign frequency of knowing and trusting that you know what to do, that you know how to navigate difficulty, you know how to navigate obstacles. You're okay with letting go of control sometimes. You're okay with uncertainty settling in. You're okay with feeling the fear because you have this sovereignty to know no matter what the situation is, you can make peace with it. You can navigate it. Okay, so number one was to be self-sourced. So having your sense of confidence and worthiness come from within. Number two was sovereignty, having full radical ownership on your life, your decisions, your goals, your needs, your wants, desires, having that ability to self-advocate and not consistently outsourcing that sense of direction to somebody else. Number three is being self-assured. Very similar, very similar to the above, but just a tiny different flavor. Being self-assured is not just having your confidence and self sense of identity come from within, but allowing yourself to be the one who gives yourself the pat on the back and gives yourself that sense of applause when nobody else is watching. It's to be able to take steps without looking to see if anyone is telling you you're doing a good job. It's being able to go into uncomfortable situations without constantly scanning and worried about how you're being perceived in that moment. It's being able to do hard things. And even if you fail, knowing that it was the right decision, knowing that it was the right thing to do to build that character within. That's what being self-assured means, right? Self-sourced, your identity is coming from within. You're not playing into other people's scripts and expectations of how you need to be, how you need to show up to fit into society. Sovereignty is you own your life choices, direction, and goals. Self-assuredness is that you trust your own judgment. Self-assuredness is not consistently looking outside of yourself for validation to validate or to kind of check off the box of I'm doing things right. You become your own sense of applause, even when you're failing, even when you are not doing things correctly, even when things are taking long. You're trusting that whatever this journey is that you are on, it is the right path for you. You trust that even through the ups and downs and the mistakes, you have your own back. You're not looking for other people to give you a yay, good job for you to keep going. Okay, number four, solitude. Now, I should have said this in the beginning, slipped my mind. I'm naturally introverted, which is actually surprising to many people. I think I'm more ambivert, to be honest. Like I can be very extroverted if I want to, and especially in my line of work, like it requires me to be very extroverted, but I recharge in private. I like to spend a lot of time alone. I'm not creative. I'm a hermit. I like to spend time with my own thoughts. I love going for long, long nature walks and forests, beach, just like spending hours in my own mind. I don't get tired of it. Too much solitude, though, I go a little nuts. So I do need to have that social interaction. I like to respond to things. I like to be the person who, creates dialogue, discussion. I like to be around like-minded people. But embracing solitude and being okay with solitude is what has made a lot of these life decisions possible. If I was not comfortable being alone, I could not have just picked up and gone to Mexico by myself. I could not have mustered up the courage to go to the social event that I met my ex-fiance at by myself. Because it's one of those things that you don't usually show up by yourself. Like you usually go with someone or a group of people. I would not have the courage to take myself out to fancy dinners or to sit at a bar alone and not be afraid of how people are going to see me or what they're going to think. I would not have developed this core sense of who I am and how I view myself and what I believe about myself if I hadn't spent the time being in my own mind without the distractions, without the constant scrolling or having Netflix on in the background or having someone to talk to distract you. Periods, incubatory, I should say, periods of solitude really, really help quiet the mind and bring you back to yourself. And there's so many ways that you can do this. When I say solitude, I don't mean just like, sitting in a room staring at a wall and being alone. This could look like activities that you do by yourself. This could look like having one day a week or a couple of hours one afternoon to just take yourself out on a solo date. It could look like choosing to stay in on a Friday or Saturday night and having like a ritual at home for yourself. It could look like self-care. It could look like enrolling into a new course or a new skill development. Anything that you can do alone to build up your skill of sitting with yourself, sitting with your emotions, that sitting with your thoughts without judging, without feeling like you need to rush through it, without feeling like you need someone or something to fill the void. Being comfortable in your own presence, especially in today's day and age, and especially as a woman, is so important. Because when you're comfortable being by yourself, you do not consistently chase people who are not good for you because you're afraid of being alone. You're not afraid of walking away from situations that are not serving you. You are not afraid of what will it look like if you don't have this person or this group of people in your life anymore. You will not be afraid of showing up to a country and just saying, we're here to explore. Spending time in solitude. And I'm going to get into a couple of practical ways in just a sec about how to actually start kind of whetting your appetite when it comes to building that solitude muscle. What are we at? One, two, three, four, five. Security. How to cultivate a sense of security within yourself. And what I mean by security is yes, you want to have a self-sourced sense of identity. Yes, you want to have sovereignty over your decisions. Yes, you want to be self-assured and not be outsourcing validation. You want to be comfortable in your own presence. But there's a sense of security that also needs to be built in order for these things to happen. What I mean by security is knowing that regardless of how a situation turns out, how a person, comes or goes, regardless of what the external circumstances that you find yourself in play out, you are the only constant in your life. When we have this sense of security within, we do not attach meaning to things, such as the man in our life, such as how our business is performing in a month. When we are secure within, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, the volatility of the events of life or how people show up for us or don't show up for us don't make us waver off of our center. If anything, we have such a strengthened sense of standards of what we accept, what we don't accept, what is, what are we available for versus what are we not available for? Where is it that we feel like we are, looking to the external world to complete something within us, to kind of fill a gap, fill a void? When we have a sense of security, we do not attach ourselves to outcomes. We do not attach ourselves to the meaning of, follower count or engagement on our content or how many people signed up for our last workshop or masterclass. We don't make it mean anything about ourselves, is what I'm saying. We do not internalize the external world to make it mean something about us. If someone says, I think you're ugly and I don't want to date you, okay. Does it hurt your feelings? Maybe. But it doesn't make you self-question. It doesn't make you spiral about whether you're an unattractive person. You have security within yourself. You just simply recognize that this person was not up to your standard, or this person was not necessarily someone who is aligned with who you are and how you show up in the world. You do not allow the external world and things not going your way to throw you off. That sense of security means that you are unattached from things needing to go your way, needing to gain the approval of others, needing for a particular outcome to happen in order for you to feel strong and secure within. And again, I think this is one of the biggest things that I deal with people in business, aside from the constantly like scanning to see if people approve of them, which is, I should say, a symptom of a deeper rooted insecurity. But the security is, can you hold faith? Can you hold yourself? Can you deepen that connection with yourself and be okay when nobody claps, or when things don't go your way, or when you did not make the money that you thought this launch was going to make, or when the person that you thought was the love of your life walks away, when that, living arrangement that you had been dreaming about falls through, when someone that you deeply trusted betrays you, right? When all of these life quakes hit, are you secure enough to recognize that it doesn't actually have to do with you? And yes, part of security is self-reflection and being able to take that radical self-accountability that comes with being a sovereign being. But are you able to stay true to yourself and not self-abandon and not emotionally go through the ups and downs and the spirals and the volatility of the external world? Are you able to hold steady when shit hits the fan? Okay, number 6 is successful. And this is a little I should say, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but this is a little bit more of a yeah, I guess an edgy one, a controversial one with the success and especially being a female and whatnot. I genuinely believe one of the best decisions that I made for myself, even though it wasn't maybe a conscious decision at the time, was to commit myself to building a business, to building a brand, to building a financial backbone to my life where nobody else's actions, especially a man, will ever have me dependent on them to continue to provide my lifestyle in this way. Being successful on your own terms, being able to make money on your own terms, having dominion over how to spend that money, how much of that money is yours, and how much of it can be earned, and not going by somebody else's rules or definition, I think is probably one of the biggest factors that you can develop for yourself in reclaiming that sovereignty. Being successful to me as a female is not just constantly more, do, productivity, productivity, output, output, all this like kind of like hustle culture. That's not what I believe. I think success as a female, especially, and I'm going to speak to those in business because that's what the majority of the people in my circle, success to me is being able to create a means of monetizing your gifts, monetizing your innate talents, monetizing the things that make you special. It could be a skill set, it could be a way that you create value in the world in a way that allows you to make a big impact and make a big income while respecting and nurturing the seasons of how you want to be living. It is not overexertion. It is not working yourself to the bone just so that you can say you have $1 million. It is not doing it for the applause. It is not doing it to stick it to someone. It is not doing it so that you feel like that money that is coming in is filling a void within. Which asterisk here is, I think, the reason why so many of us got into business in the first place. It's like thinking that once we have all the money, all the problems are going to go away, or we're going to finally like ourselves because we accomplished something. I don't know, maybe a topic for another video. Um, but the success in committing to the process of building something valuable, of building a community, of building products, services, things that are genuinely moving society forward, and to be handsomely paid for that, to have authority on who you work with and who you don't work with, on having the means to provide a lifestyle for yourself and not consistently looking for someone to come you and rescue you from your own inability to be financially sovereign. Success is not just about the status. It's not how many people, like you, follow you, how many people pay you. It's not about the numbers. It is about, do you feel in complete control over your income, over the way that you produce value, over the amount of time and energy that you are spending working? Do you have the freedom to live the type of lifestyle that you want without externally looking for somebody else to provide it for you? I'm not against men providing. I just want to put that out there as well. Again, not veering into the hyper independence. If I have a man come into my life who wants to provide and wants to step in, who knows, there will be periods of my life that I perhaps will not be as involved in my work as I am now. I might be going through motherhood. I might be going through, health challenges, like knock on wood. There's many things that I could be going through. And to have that partner who is there and doesn't see everything as 50-50 or needing to be equal, and have someone step in that will make me truly feel provided for in the times that I need, absolutely I welcome that. I admire that in a man. But that does not mean that I'm going to forfeit my own financial sovereignty in having the control on those finances. So even when it comes to the solo travel, I'll get the occasional dumb comment here and there on Instagram of like, who's providing this lifestyle for you? I kind of feel like taking a picture of my laptop and being like, that's him. It's those months that I am working my butt off that provides this ability to be able to travel through Europe for 5 weeks, right? So the success is having financial dominion. It's not just being the richest or the most popular. It is, are you living in alignment with what your gifts are meant to do? Are you producing value for other people? Are you solving problems in a way that lights you up? Are you charging what you know this work is worth? Are you able to create different streams of ways for you to experience that abundance? That is what success means. Okay, we're almost at the end. Um, I guess this is I think it's number 7. Selective. Oof. You don't just offer, or you don't just accept everything that is offered to you, or say yes to everything, or allow your energy to be leaky everywhere. You choose very carefully who and what gets access to you. You are unapologetic about the boundaries that you set. You are unapologetic about what is acceptable to engage in versus what are you not available for. You do not do it to just please others or because it's difficult to say no or because you're afraid of being seen as like a cold-hearted bitch, right? You are selective with what environments, what people, what places, what opportunities are actually worth your energy. And when you are someone who is completely sovereign, when your sense of validation is self-sourced, when you are secure in what you bring to the table, and when you are not afraid of how you will be perceived by the outside world, you will become very selective on who gets access to your time, to your energy, to your brain, to your heart. This isn't just about business and opportunities. This is also about the men that you entertain. And again, I'm saying men because I'm mostly speaking to women here. The men coming into your life, are they up to your standards? Are they treating you like someone that you know you are? Is there respect? Is there admiration? Is there investment into you? Does this person match you at an intellectual level, at an emotional capacity level, at a creative level, at a financial level, at a life purpose level? Right? It's beyond just, oh, he's 6 foot tall and makes six figures and he dresses well. And I don't care about that surface level stuff. Right? It's when we're looking at the value, do you match my morals? Do you match my lifestyle? Do you match how I think, how I move through the world? Do you match the level of passion that I have? Do you match the person that I am, the character that I exhibit? Right? So you become very selective. as to who you let into your world, who you let into your body. Very selective with the energetic exchange that is happening on all levels. Who you allow, access directly to you, who you engage with on a regular basis. I gotta say this, guys, and it might, again, come off a bit rude, but I'm very selective with who I even respond to in my DMs. I used to be the girl who was like, I want to connect with everybody. I want everyone to feel like I'm a real human being, and I'm not just gonna look at people like numbers. And if you send me a message and if you engage, like I will always respond, I will always be there. And I started to realize that I was enabling quite a bit of entitled behavior with followers, whether it was men or just even people who wanted access to my brain without actually valuing it. And again, it's not that they weren't valuing it, as I wasn't valuing it, and that was what was being mirrored to me. That's what was happening. I was being very leaky with my energy. I was allowing people access to my thoughts and access to my work and access to who I am and access to my advice, like everywhere. That is not healthy. That is not healthy. Half the people who want access to that, it's like energy leeches. And I'm not saying be that cold-hearted bitch and you're like, if you want access to me, you have to pay me. Like, I believe in being generous. I believe in extending a helping hand when you can. I believe in being a real human and building relationships, especially in business, especially on social media. But we really want to make sure that we're being selective with what are the types of energy we continue to entertain when they continuously show us that they are not good for us, right? So what are the people, places that you consistently indulge in or that you frequent that are leaking your energy, right? What's that kind of ambiguous friend that you need to cut off? Who's this man that you've been entertaining that doesn't want anything serious, but he's kind of filling a void, so let's just give him access anyway, right? Who are the people who are just picking your brain and constantly kind of draining your energy that you're afraid of setting a boundary with or letting go of? Are you being selective enough? And I'm willing to bet the answer is no. Okay, number eight. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Number eight, you are emotionally selective. Sorry, emotionally steady. What this means is, especially as a woman, you are not reactive. You do not fly off the handle. You are not someone who makes rash emotional decisions when life is not going your way. When someone says something to you that hurts your feelings, says something to you that is, painful, when you are in a situation that you feel outside of your control, how can you hold emotionally steady when shit does not go your way? Do you have a mental breakdown? And again, everything that I've shared so far, even with these nine S's, comes back down to when you're traveling, you are by yourself. Hard things will happen. Can you hold yourself? Can you self-regulate? Can you self-soothe? Oh my goodness, guys. Your your biggest skill as a woman, I believe, is the ability to self-soothe. It's the ability to not jump to conclusions. It's the ability to not just rage and go into this chaotic spiral when things don't go your way, when you don't get a response back enough from your man, when, a friend says something kind of offhanded or passive aggressive, when your business is not going the right way, when it's that time of month for you. Can you hold emotionally steady? And this does not mean to bypass emotions. This does not mean to, be that calm, cool, unbothered person all the time. Like, I'm not saying that. It is important and healthy to feel the range of those emotions. But how you choose to respond to those emotions are very important. What are the ways that you are holding yourself through difficulty? I can go a lot deeper into this, but I feel like I just spent the last two videos ranting about the emotional spirals and how to hold yourself through difficult times. Because I myself was going through it, and I kind of did my best to document that as vulnerably and as authentically as possible. Right? So how do you feel the emotions but not lose yourself in the emotions? How do you not develop this desire to seek revenge or become reactive in times where things are volatile or things are uncertain? Ask yourself, are you someone who completely flies off the handle, loses herself, has a breakdown, texts and calls someone 48 times when things are not going your way? Do you make decisions that you later regret? Do you say things that maybe you don't really mean in the moment, but it feels cathartic? Who do you become when emotions are at an all-time high? Do you have the tools to self-soothe, to self-regulate without bypassing the difficult emotions? Do you have the ability to steady yourself in the storm? Again, another one of these narratives. I feel like I'm taking a stab really at this new kind of like modern way of dating and polarity, where it's like, to be a man, you need to be able to steady her in her emotions and you need to be able to deal with the storm and just embrace the feminine chaos. I disagree with that. Yes, absolutely. Maybe I'm a little bit more hormonal one week, maybe I'm a little bit more sensitive. Do I want a man who is attuned to that? Absolutely. But is it his job to steady my emotions? No, that's my job. It is my job to know how to self-soothe. Can co-regulation help? Yes. But it is not his responsibility. It is my responsibility. I need to be able to catch why I'm flying off the handle. I need to be able to catch why is it that I completely lose myself when something does not go my way. When there's uncertainty, when we're not getting clarity on something, when we are trying our best and nothing seems to be working, when we are betrayed or hurt by someone, who do we become in those moments? How do we steady ourselves? What are the coping mechanisms? What are the strategies that we adopt in those moments? What is it about the situation that is triggering us? Let's bring the self-awareness back to that. Is it something about our past that is being aggravated? Is it something that we haven't dealt with before? Is there a wound at play here? There are many things, even in conflicts, when it comes to business conflicts with a client, with a peer, with a colleague, with someone that you're collaborating with, in relationships with your man, with family. It's probably the worst one for me at the moment. With family, even. What is going on internally when there's triggers being aggravated, when there's conversations being had that you do not like, when things are not being shared with you openly, when you're trying your best and things are just not working? Who do you become in those moments? How do you steady yourself to not rob yourself of the human experience of experiencing anger, frustration, sadness, grief, all of that? But are you able to soothe and to direct that energy somewhere else? Are you able to respond to both yourself in the situation or the person in that situation, or do you just explode? Remember in my last video, I talked about controlled demolition, an explosion in a box. How do you contain? How do you hold steady? Okay. And finally, the last one is self-respect. So honoring your standards, honoring the boundaries, understanding how much of you needs to be available to different people, things, situations, and respecting yourself enough to walk away from something that isn't serving you, to stand up for yourself when someone is overriding a boundary, to removing access when you feel like something is not being respected, taking care of yourself. It could even be doing hard things or showing yourself love, showing yourself patience when usually you would have an inner critic. Self-respect isn't just, I respect myself and I think I'm a worthy human being. How is it showing up in your beliefs, in your actions? How is it that your self-respect is being portrayed in the way that you show up in life, business, relationships, difficulty, when you're alone? Are you exhibiting traits of self-respect in those moments? When things are tough, when things are not going your way, when it would be easier to just kind of veg out when you've made a commitment to yourself. I've always said that, and this isn't like a me quote, this is just from my own personal experience, but I know it's kind of cliche. It's kind of one of those saying that's out there. Your self-respect or your self-conviction is built through the actions that you take when nobody's watching. It's the commitments that you keep to yourself behind the scenes when you're not getting applause. I didn't feel like working out today. I did not feel like eating clean today. I did not feel like doing a lot of the things, but I respect myself enough to know what is good for me. I respect myself enough to do the harder things, even when I don't feel like it, because I know that my confidence, my conviction, and my self-concept is forged not when other people are watching me and, saying good job or wow, this was great. The self-respect is forged behind the scenes when nobody else is watching. That calm essence that you carry, that magnetism that you carry, that kind of like je ne sais quoi energy that you carry, that stems from self-respect, not just how you portray yourself to others, not just what you look like and how you speak and what's your brand and what's your all the titles and whatnot. It is from knowing and trusting and respecting the person behind the scenes. Because I like who I am when I'm off camera. I like who I am when I'm not on social media. I like who I am when I'm with myself. That breeds an unshakable sense of conviction that I think is necessary, especially as women. When we are self-respecting, we do not just allow access to everyone. We are very discerning about what situations, what people we get involved with. We can hold steady during times of turbulence. We see building our success as something that is necessary, not just good because, oh, great, now I have all this money and I have freedom and I can just go, party on a yacht on a random Tuesday afternoon. It's no, you become successful because it's almost a disservice for you to not become successful. It is almost disrespectful to yourself to not be successful because you realize that you have potential that needs to be tapped into. You have gifts that you need to share with the world. You have beliefs and ideas that need to be put out there. There are people that can gain benefit and value from your skills and your expertise. It is a form of self-respect, even for me to be sitting here recording this video when it is a beautiful day outside, or beautiful evening now. I could be sitting at a bar having a nice glass of wine and having some tapas, but I want to be doing this because I respect my ability to create and who I am and my worth and my wisdom, and I honor my standards through all of that. Okay, so just to quickly recap what my 9S framework for becoming a lethal female. Number one, becoming self-sourced. Number two, becoming sovereign. So again, that self-sourcedness is your sense of identity. The sovereignty is the dominion over your choices, your direction, your decisions, your life, your goals. Self-assuredness, so trusting that you have your own back even when things are not going your way, not externalizing your sense of validation from others. Solitude, embracing the time that you have with yourself, embracing the kind of energetic state of enjoying the present moment when you're just with you. Security, so recognizing that nothing in life is certain, nothing in life is, going to provide you with that sense of security. It's you that needs to trust you to not be to be unwavering even in times where you don't get the outcomes that you desire, to be successful, right? To be someone who has dominion over your finances, dominion over how you produce, dominion over your lifestyle. Selective. So who gets access to you? Where is it that your energy is going? How is it that um, you're allowing yourself to engage with the external world? How much of you is being accessed? And then finally, self-respecting. So someone who truly, truly knows who they are at the core, takes the actions, exhibits the beliefs, and someone who recognizes that that self-respect is the core of how they build conviction. Okay, let's bring this back to answering the question of how do you develop the courage to travel? Because this is what all of this was about. You guys see how my brain works, right? I get asked a question and I could probably just answer it in a quick voice note over Instagram. But given so many people asked, I'm like, there's so much more that I can say about this because it is not about the travel. It is not about the travel. It is about who you are, how you see yourself at the end of the day. So, why do I recommend solo travel? Because everything that I just listed out with these 9 S's can very quickly be developed when you are by yourself in a country. And again, take it from someone who went to the States, I'm Canadian, went to the States during COVID, kind of got stuck there, ended up spending 6 months in San Diego. Someone who moved to Mexico on a whim. I kid you not, guys. I decided I'm moving to Mexico, and 72 hours later, I had a 6 month lease negotiated. And 24 hours after that, I was in my new apartment in Mexico, and stayed there for 2 years on and off. Someone who again, traveled for just like a month to the UK during lockdown season to stay with a group of strangers that I had never met before. Um, Someone who picked up her life and moved to Puerto Rico because I thought that the man that I was going to spend the rest of my life with was there. Spent 4 months and things didn't work out, but it is what it is. Again, you could say that that's not necessarily solo travel, but it is the mere act of just packing up your life and moving to a completely new place. A lot of the security, the confidence, the conviction, the stability that I have within myself has come from experiences that have directly stemmed from the times that I've been alone or the times that I've been in foreign territory because I have learned to solve problems, to make decisions, to navigate uncertainty, to know how to ask for support versus where do I rely on self-trust, to create joyful and meaningful experiences by myself without feeling like someone always needs to be there in order for me to enjoy those experiences, to trust myself to navigate whatever is being thrown my way, to not necessarily feel like something is missing or someone is missing, that I need to fill the void if I'm by myself, or that I cannot fully relax and enjoy a situation, whether it's a dinner, whether it's a walk, unless someone is there to share it with me, right? So once you experience the solo travel or the ability to sit with that discomfort, to solve the problems, to navigate uncertainty, to feel what it's like to just simply be in your own presence in those moments, you do not return from those experiences as the same woman. I'll be real with you guys. After two back-to-back periods of between San Diego and when I was living in Mexico, coming back home to my hometown, I realized that I had outgrown a ton of people. I was not able to relate at the same level anymore. And it's not because I thought like, oh, I just went and traveled and like I'm so much better than you guys. I realized that my worldviews, my confidence, my ability to think on the spot, or just like the topics that were in my mind, I realized I would sit at dinner tables with older friends of mine and I just couldn't relate anymore. I realized the people that had not left this like 15-mile radius for the past 5 years, we don't think the same anymore. So with this new level of confidence that you unlock when you are able to, create and develop some of these traits, you will outgrow some people. You will become somewhat of the odd one out. But the clarity, the confidence, the conviction that you develop in yourself, the ability to sit in solitude and not worry about how you are perceived, that is worth it. You do not return as the same woman. And that's the point. That is the point of all of this. It's that hero's journey that you almost need to go through to come back as the person who is wiser, the person who has found the medicine. And you don't always, go out trekking out for, to find to find yourself or to, whatever we tell ourselves that we need to do or we need to be when we travel. But you don't come back as the same person because the experiences that shape you, the conversations with strangers, the things that you face, the people that you meet, the um just the things that you see even completely shift your perspective. And I'm not saying solo travel, like you just booked yourself a 1 week, alone retreat in Punta Cana. I'm talking about when you're like in a country, sitting, staying at a city, staying at an Airbnb, navigating, getting food for yourself, navigating different, activities throughout the day, meeting new people, going to foreign lands, having to speak to people that you are maybe don't speak the same language. There's a lot more to travel than just, oh, I took myself on a retreat here and there. That's a good start. I think if you're someone who's never traveled by yourself, and I'm going to get into that in just a second too, like little ways that you can microdose. But there's a very big difference between the trips that open your mind, open your ability to see things different, just like widen your horizons versus times that you just kind of are on this like vacation by yourself. Okay, let's wrap this up, guys. I've put together a couple of practical ways that you can start microdosing solitude and you can start microdosing some of the 9 S's that I talked about. These are going to be specifically helpful for those of you who want to eventually solo travel, but that feels like a really big step right now. So I'm going to talk about that real quick because I think most women see themselves going from like constantly being around people and constantly needing to have someone around them or like having a big fear around being alone to all of a sudden thinking they need to hop on a plane and like move to a foreign country for a month. That's a really big leap. And like no kidding. Of course your nervous system is going to be like, I don't know how you do that. Like that's terrifying. So we don't want to take such a big leap, especially if we're not used to it or if we've never done something like that before. What we want to do instead is microdose solitude. So, what could this look like? It's a couple suggestions I've written down. So, number one, trying to go to a coffee shop alone without your phone, or just going to a coffee shop alone, period. You could maybe even take your laptop with you. You can, if it's awkward to just sit there by yourself, maybe do a little bit of work, maybe do some research, maybe, doing something where you're by yourself. You're not necessarily in that social setting with somebody else, but you're there alone. Taking yourself out to a nice breakfast or a nice dinner alone. Making a reservation for one or just showing up for a table for one and maybe not even sitting at the bar, but sitting at a table by yourself. Um, Going for a walk without calling someone or without feeling like you need to be engaging with something to keep you distracted on this walk. Like, are you able to be with yourself, with your own thoughts for even just like 30 minutes? I would encourage you maybe even to not listen to music. I know, crazy. Maybe don't listen to music. Maybe just take the headphones out, just go for a 20-minute walk and just allow yourself to observe experiencing thoughts as they come through. Spending an entire afternoon doing something you enjoy by yourself. Take a dance class, take a pottery class, paint, draw, write a chapter of a book. I don't know, just take an afternoon, maybe a couple of hours, to do something that feels rewarding to you, but that does not involve somebody else. Going to a museum, bookstore, farmer's market. I've just kind of like listed things that I've done locally by myself. Insert any sort of activity, but just something that takes you out of your regular day-to-day routine and gives you a new experience without it needing to be like travel. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh my gosh, I just booked myself a trip and I'm going to be spending a month in Europe by myself like I have. It could be something just simple, like, oh, today I'm going to go to a coffee shop and I'm going to visit this bookstore and then I'm going to go to the farmer's market and I'm not going to have anyone with me. I'm just going to do it by myself and see how you feel. Notice what comes up for you in these moments, regardless of whether you're on a walk or you're just doing something alone. Do you feel bored? Do you feel boredom creeping in? Do you feel anxiety creeping in? Do you feel the need to connect or to talk to someone or to go on social media? Do you feel self-conscious, being observed, being in a space alone? Are you consistently monitoring to see who is looking at you, who is noticing you? These are things that we want to be aware of, right? This is valuable information to inform you on what is that relationship that you have with yourself. And again, the more we do it, the more we microdose it. That's the purpose of microdosing it. The easier it becomes, it feels more natural, and you start to actually enjoy that company. I said to someone earlier when they said, "Oh, you're spending an entire month by yourself? Like, are you not going to wish someone was with you for dinners and for like, taking photos?" And I'm like, to be honest, I've done this so frequently now that I actually prefer to be solo when I'm traveling because it gives me the ultimate freedom to do what I want when I want. I'm not on somebody else's schedule. I don't need to accommodate. It feels good. It feels like I'm in complete control, ironically, of what my day-to-day is going to look like. And I love that. Okay, so how can we start microdosing ways that you start to feel more comfortable in your own solitude without needing to book a flight somewhere? Okay, that can come later. Let's start with baby steps. It could be going to a Pilates class by yourself without going with a partner, coffee shop, museum, bookstore, pottery class. Again, like I said, take your pick. These are just things that I know I have done, but whatever you feel is going to maybe push you a little bit outside your comfort zone. Also, I'll share also when I get back, I would like to register for a jiu-jitsu class. I've been saying that I want to learn how to kick ass, so I'm gonna register for a beginner's Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Probably get my ass whooped. Definitely outside my comfort zone, but I'm gonna do it just to see how it goes. Um, okay, the next thing that I said is going to be important. Aside from just doing things like taking actions, it is to learn how to make decisions alone. So, deciding where to eat, where to spend your weekend, what class to take, what you should do with your business, what's an idea that you want to take action on. Start to train yourself to start trusting that whatever feels right to you in that moment, whatever nudge you have, whatever that feeling is that this is something I want to pursue, don't fight it. Allow yourself to just follow it without having external input, without having somebody that comes in and tells you how you should do it or, tries to sway you a certain way so that you avoid making certain mistakes. I know this can be scary, especially for those of us who are in business or some of us who are consistently looking outside of ourselves for someone to give us a sense of direction. But one of the best ways that you can strengthen that self-trust muscle is to stop outsourcing it to somebody else and believing that they have answers that you don't. I said this a lot in my previous videos when it came to content creation, brand strategy, the use of AI, right? There's a self-trust muscle that we need to start cultivating more, especially in this age where we're so quick to Google something or to ask an expert, go to AI. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to sit with the discomfort of not knowing how to do something correctly and just doing it anyway and learning through trial and error. You don't need to pull five of your friends on what outfit to wear or what's a good decision to make with a, romantic situationship you're in. Your self-assurance is going to grow through consistent micro decisions, even if you make mistakes. That is the beauty of this, right? It's the inability to make decisions without asking other people that is handicapping that confidence that knows how to transmute uncertainty, how to let go of control, how to trust that no matter what happens, you have your back. That's really important when it comes to building this muscle of being okay in solitude, having that self-assuredness, not consistently outsourcing, not constantly scanning to see what people think about you. You can breed that self-confidence through micro daily decisions. This also pertains to, I guess, my next point kind of ties into it. I don't know if it's a whole point of itself, but I said learn to sit with discomfort instead of fixing it. So when you are in a state of solitude or, sitting with an uncomfortable decision, don't try to eliminate the uncertainty prematurely or try to eliminate that feeling of discomfort. Instead, ask yourself, what if this feeling isn't a problem? What if the fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty, the emotions that are coming up about the situation, what if it doesn't require a solution right now? What if it doesn't require me needing to solve this right now? What if it doesn't require feeling like I have the situation under control in order for myself to be, or in order for my emotions to feel steady? A lot of times, our inability to be in the uncertainty, to inability to be in the fog, is because we feel anytime discomfort surfaces, we need to solve it. We need to nip it in the bud. We need to find an answer right away. We need to grasp onto something. We need certainty. Strong people can hold themselves levitating in the void for a period of time and being okay with not knowing how things are going to play out. Not forever. I think forever it'll be hard to do that, but temporarily. So learn to be in the void for a little bit. Give yourself time to feel the emotions and allow answers to reveal themselves without running quickly to try to solve it. Next one is to create rituals that you genuinely enjoy alone. Yes, taking yourself out of your comfort zone and like doing a new activity is cool, but start small, like start even smaller. When you are at home, what is a nice little morning routine or evening routine you can set up? What's a little, daily or weekly activity or ritual that you can encompass in your weekly schedule that is just you time for yourself? Is it taking 45 minutes to read in the morning? Is it going for a walk on the beach before you start your calls for the day? Is it a journaling practice before bed? Is it a midday nature walk that you take? Is it going to a particular, let's say a friend of mine's taking like an improv class? Like, what are little ways that you can start to cultivate a relationship with yourself by engaging with your skills, with your interests, with hobbies? What are things that you can do that kind of make that period of solitude feel more pleasurable. It doesn't feel like you're just sitting in the void, sitting there with your thoughts, being like, what do I do with myself? Like, what can you do to actually turn that time into something that feels rejuvenating? And finally, the last step here is to take your first solo trip, but with training wheels. Okay? Your first solo trip does not need to be a 5 week trek across Europe like I'm doing right now. Okay? It doesn't have to be some like crazy eat, pray, love. I'm spending 12 months traveling to Bali and India and all the places. Okay? Choose a destination that feels comfortable and familiar. It could be just going to another city in your own country. It could be going to, a small little town that you've never gone to before. It could be a place where you at least speak the language. So let's say if you're Canadian, you go somewhere in the States by yourself. So it doesn't feel completely foreign and there's not like a culture shock that comes with it. It could be a very short, like weekend trip or long weekend trip somewhere. Or it could be a location that feels exciting, but that doesn't terrify you. Okay, maybe you can do like a Tulum thing, or maybe you can, go to a popular destination, maybe even a European destination, without it needing to be like an entire trip. Like I took myself, for example, to Italy for 7 days for my birthday back in 2024. Short trip, saw 3 different cities, met up with a friend even when I was there. But again, it's like it's micro dosing these successful experiences and going through the hard, maybe uncomfortable time period of navigating some stuff there and realizing, oh, I did not die. That wasn't so terrible. I'm maybe capable of this. Maybe it's not that bad. I always said to the people way back when they'd be like, how do you just like pick up and go? I said, just do it once. Just do it once and you'll see it's not that bad. But I understand that it can be a big step if you are not okay with that solitude, if you have not developed that self-assuredness, if you don't have a deeper sense of conviction in that relationship with yourself. It can be very difficult to do things on your own. So, to wrap this up finally, ultimately, the practice is not just to be alone and just be okay with being alone and not needing anybody and being hyper miss independent and I'm, sovereign and successful and nobody can touch me and I'm in my villain era and again, all of those things have some value and have some merit. But it's more so about learning that your own company can also be enjoyed. And as a matter of fact, the best thing that you can do for yourself as a woman is to develop that sense of comfort and connection with your own company. Many women spend years getting to the end of this call, developing relationships with partners, with peers, with their titles, with their status, with everything, how to perception manage, how to show up a certain way, how to appease, how to do all the things so that everybody else is healthy and happy without thinking about themselves, without enjoying being with themselves. The women who seem grounded, magnetic, stable, the women who we are attracted to, even energetically, not just physically, energetically, they are the women who enjoy being by themselves. They are the women who self-source their sense of validation, their sense of who they are. They are not consistently scanning the outside world to see how they can better fit in. And it's not because they're antisocial. It's not because they're outcasts and they're traumatized. I was, but we're working through that, or we've worked through that. It's not that they don't love people and they hate everybody and they're self-centered, but it's because that they've learned how to be comfortable in their own presence, that they've learned that they themselves are enough the way that they are. It is radical self-acceptance. It is radical self-love to be in that magnetic state. So if you've made it to the end of this session, congratulations. I hope that this gave you some insights on not just how to solo travel, but what are ways that you can cultivate that deeper sense of connection, sovereignty, self-assuredness, confidence, competence, conviction, and that inner sense of mastery on yourself as a woman. Because, like I said, I think it is likely the rarest trait, especially today, for women. A woman who can hold her own, a woman who can self-advocate, a woman who does not self-abandon for love and approval and belonging and money and followers, a woman who stands by her values and her standards even when she's pushed to the limit. A woman who recognizes and opens herself to interdependence and to connection and to love, but doesn't feel like she needs to negotiate with it, or doesn't feel like she's being too much for being herself, or she needs to self-abandon in order to maintain that connection. A woman who is independent and sovereign, but does not put up a shield and use hyper independence as a way to protect herself from the world. These are magnetic, rare qualities. So if this has spoken to you, as always, send me a message. I love to hear your thoughts. I would love to get your insights and your own experiences on this. And I hope for those of you who have reached out asking for how to solo travel, that this at least gave you a couple of ideas on how to get started on that. So this now brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you so much for joining. Please follow along on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I will be documenting these next upcoming 4.5 weeks, trekking through Malaga, Marbella, Lisbon, Porto, Lagos, and all the little mini cities I'm going to be stopping at in between. It is going to be an incredible journey. I have no idea what lies ahead. And to wrap this up on a final kind of personal note, as you guys know, I've kind of been on the search for my next home, as I shared. This is the first time in a very long time that I'm not just solo traveling because I'm trying to kill time waiting for my immigration stuff or because of long distance, long distance love and all of that. This is the very first time that I'm traveling as a free bird. I'm traveling to self-explore. I'm traveling to plant seeds. I'm traveling to build connections. I'm traveling to meet people. I'm traveling to get a sense for where feels like home. Where can I see myself relocating to? And so this requires a lot of putting myself out there. This requires a lot of dealing with the unknown, not knowing how I'm going to feel. This requires a lot of discovering and adventuring through new territory. And part of it is scary. Sometimes it's a little bit scary, but part of it is also opening myself up to seeing what life has to offer without the attachment to how I think things need to go. So, if that's exciting and you want to follow along, I will be documenting this journey. Maybe I'll record another video at some point. But yeah, this brings us to the end. So, thank you again for listening, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.